It can sometimes be difficult to tell the difference between depression and schizoid personality disorder, and this is because on the surface they can look very similar. So in this video I'm going to explain the key differences between depression and being schizoid. Within object relation theory, depression is understood as being related to a loss that's either real, imagined, or symbolic. So for people who are depressed, they're more likely to feel depressed in response to a specific event or disappointment that has taken place in their lives. And also, it's often linked to a person finding themselves unable to fulfill their goals or achieve the desired outcomes that they want in their life. With depression, there's a sense of failure attached to it, as well as loss, and this can also include a response to failed relationships. On the other hand, schizoid dynamics and adaptations originate in early childhood due to defenses that cause withdrawal and emotional detachment. The main issue with people who are schizoid is that they have difficulty with feeling safe. People who are depressed, they may crave intimate emotional relationships with others. However, they tend to find themselves hindered by their negative self-perception, and they often find themselves experiencing emotional turmoil because of this. There's often a sadness attached to depression as a consequence of not being able to attain the relationships that they want in real life. With schizoid individuals, they can desire intimate relationships as well. However, their defenses cause an obstruction to making this a possibility, and the defenses are geared around causing a withdrawal and emotional detachment, and this is linked to the fear of engulfment, where they tend to have an aversity towards losing their autonomy in a relationship and also succumbing to the other person's needs to the point where they may find that they lose themselves in a relationship. So the defenses that the schizoid individual have in place will create a barrier between themselves and others in an emotionally intimate sense. People who are depressed tend to experience immense suffering. This can include sadness and hopelessness and despair, often linked towards wanting to be close to others, but not being in the state of being that makes this possible to happen. This isn't a consequence of defenses that cause detachment and withdrawal, as in the case of the schizoid, but it's more like a form of negativity and low self-esteem. The emotions that a depressed person feels can be explained as anger turned inward, and so there can be an anger towards the external world because they haven't been able to fulfill the goals that they desire in the external world, but instead of lashing out at the world, they turn their anger in on themselves, and this is what causes a lot of the negative emotional turmoil that they experience. They can go through some sort of existential crisis, which means that they can feel like life isn't worth living. Feeling that life isn't worth living can cause them to go into a spiral of despair and futility, that further makes them feel that they're never going to achieve the goals or the things that they desire in life. On the other hand, schizoid, they don't experience their emotions as strongly as someone who's depressed due to the emotional detachment caused by their defenses. And so, for this reason, they aren't going to really suffer the same sort of emotional turmoil as someone who's depressed. The schizoid defenses help the schizoid individual to defend against pain. So they may use defenses such as intellectualization and engaging in fantasy to distance themselves from their emotions, and also to help them to deal with any existential crises that they may be going through. With the schizoid, the existential crisis isn't so much linked to the fact that they can't accomplish goals in the external world, but it's more a internally deep-rooted experience caused by a detachment from the external world, and it's more about questioning one's own being and one's own reason for living due to the fact that there's a strong sense of isolation. So it's different from what the person who is depressed is experiencing. The schizoid individual state of being is going to lack that sense of guilt, anger, and brooding that the depressed person will feel. As I mentioned earlier, people who are depressed tend to experience low self-esteem, and this low self-esteem and negative self-perception can become ingrained within their identity. They may engage in a high degree of self-criticism, and this is often a way to shield themselves from some of their own negative emotions, because it sounds counterintuitive, but if they criticize themselves, then they don't have to face up to criticism from others, and they may feel better if they're the one criticizing themselves rather than leaving it to other people to make judgments about them, which could make them feel worse. So in a way, this can give the depressed person a sense of control over their own sense of worthlessness, even if it is in a very negative and unhealthy way. Schizoid individuals can also experience low self-esteem. However, they manage this by disconnecting from their own emotions. This is accomplished by distancing the true self from the external world so that the true self avoids being exposed to others and being judged by others. So, schizoid individuals tend to be very self-sufficient, and in doing so, they can avoid situations where their self-worth might be tested. So both people who are depressed and schizoid individuals experience a form of anhedonia. However, there are different ways that this anhedonia manifests for each of them. So in depression, the anhedonia that they experience is tied to their feelings of worthlessness, and also due to the loss that they've experienced. So this can affect their ability to enjoy life, even though there is deep down a desire to enjoy life. This anhedonia is more linked to feelings of being defeated. So there's a sense of failing in life due to not getting the things that they want and desire. The things in the physical world that are valued by the individual, such as personal goals and things that could potentially bring them joy, seem out of reach and unobtainable. With schizoid individuals, their anhedonia more comes in relation to the defenses that cause emotional detachment. The detachment that schizoids feel is usually linked to apathy, and this means that there tends to be a lack of care to accomplish things in the external world. Due to the detachment of emotion, schizoids experience the empty core phenomenon, which can seriously affect motivation. Additionally, because schizoids tend to feel detached from their bodies, they may not enjoy engaging in sensory activities as much as a consequence, and this is why very often they will find few activities enjoyable, and they are not going to enjoy activities that others find typically pleasurable. So, unlike the depressed person who is very much longing to have these pleasurable experiences in the physical world but is obstructed due to negative self-perception, being defeated, and feeling at a loss, the schizoid individual lacks the desire for these things because of defenses that cause emotional detachment. So those are the main differences between being depressed and being schizoid, and particularly having schizoid dynamics or adaptations. And I hope it's helped you to understand a bit more that, there are overlaps, and also to make it a little bit more complicated, sometimes people who are schizoid, that is people who have schizoid dynamics and adaptations, can suffer from depression. This is a deep and complex topic, so I just wanted to highlight the key differences. And